Thank you for joining us. You're on Africa 24 and you're watching the African Union Journal, which brings to you updates on the actions of the African Union. Africa seeks development that will shelter her from the multiple problems she faces. Despite its enormous potential, the continent still struggles to offer its population a flourishing life, a difficult situation which the African Union has included among the priorities of Agenda 2063. Africa now intends to independently play a leading role to foster her own sustainable development and wealth creation. Details in this report.
On Africa's development path, Agenda 2063 serves as a compass, an instrument which prioritizes the issue of wealth creation and sustainable development. Within the African Union, there is a list of 17 sustainable development goals to be achieved.
I think we know what the policy direction is, we know what the targets are. I think what we now need to do is implementation. We need to get to, what is it, what are the strategies for implementation and how can we do that? What do we need to do first? I think, varying people will have varying ideas about it, but even, feeding a child, sending a child to school, building human capacity, all of this need energy. So, and today we still have, 600 Africans without energy. For us to transform and build industry, we need energy. So I will say that one of the most important things that we should start with is energy. Of course, renewable and sustainable energy, building on a base load, possibly with some fossil fuels that are cleaner like gas.
In its race towards development, the African continent is hampered by the lack of infrastructure, unbalanced industrialization, and a very strong dependence on international investment, obstacles that must be fought in order to foster economic growth and development.
Le développement des infrastructures est un élément important. L'Afrique a besoin d'investissements importants, mais l'Afrique a besoin également de rentabiliser ses investissements. Et c'est pour cela que je suis certainement que le développement des infrastructures est un préalable important d'abord à la réalisation de la ZLECAf. Le Maroc, pour sa part, au niveau national, bien sûr, est le pays qui a développé le plus d'autoroutes, le port de Tanger-Med, le TGV. Donc c'est au Maroc, Sa Majesté le Roi a investi énormément dans l'infrastructure comme élément important pour le développement économique et l'attraction des investissements étrangers.
Financing is at the heart of every development process. In the context of financing the economic recovery of Africa, which is very much dependent on an influx of international aid, an alternative model by Africa herself through cooperation between her states should be explored.
We are aware that there are limitations to complete independence on external financing. For a long time, Africa will need the levels of external financing from public sources as well as from foreign direct investments. But the time has also come to see if we can enhance efforts at the domestic resource mobilization. So work is underway to improve tax administrations across Africa, and the work is also underway to exchange information for tax purposes so that we are able to foresee elements of illicit financial flows. So with that, then we should be able to broaden and deepen the domestic resource base.
For now, Africa is kept in need of international aid. According to Albert Muchanga, measures are taken in order to ensure the development of internal capacities that will generate wealth independently, a crucial objective for the African Union's Agenda 2063. For the full implementation of the agenda, at least 75% of resources must be mobilized at the national level.
Africa must work for the resilience of our infrastructure to guarantee post-COVID-19 recovery. The critical need for transformative investments in the water, transport, and energy sectors is aimed at supporting African trade, promoting growth, and creating jobs by 2040. Natalie Mo. Water, transport, and energy are the pillars of integration in Africa from the perspective of the Programme for Infrastructure Development in Africa, PIDA. Up to 2020, PIDA has supported 59 infrastructure programs in the transport, energy, information and communication technologies, and transboundary water sectors. PIDA has emphasized human, social, and economic interconnectivity for the implementation of these programs.
We wanted to make sure that we have, first, less projects, but more meaningful ones, that they are looking at the gender aspect, the climate resilience, smart technologies, and they benefit also from a corridor approach that bridge urban-rural gaps, but also that complement each other, not to have any isolated, low-impact projects.
Africa must ensure the resilience of our infrastructure to guarantee post-COVID recovery. The continent, currently under construction, has the ambition to succeed in breaking with the fragmentation of its infrastructural projects. It is in this light that PIDA launched the LAPSET corridor, which extends from the Horn of Africa region to the Gulf of Guinea, a real bridge for trade inclusion between East Africa and Central Africa.
Between 2013 and 2017, the average annual funding for the infrastructure development in Africa rose to $77 billion from about $39 billion in the first quarter of the 21st century. West Africa and East Africa have particularly been resurgent in this aspect. Although there is much talk about Chinese investment in Africa's infrastructure, African governments have substantially increased their spending on infrastructure. Now stands somewhere around 42%.
The problem of infrastructure financing remains at the heart of the infrastructure deficit observed on the continent. Domestic financing is still based on raising funds in local currency on regional securities markets, which are too restrictive for investors. Experts recommend methods that limit financial risks.
The bank has for quite a long time now, used indirect equity, private equity investments, such as investing heavily in Pan-African infrastructure funds, like the Africa Infrastructure Fund 2, South Africa Infrastructure Fund, which are doing innovative work in terms of investing in green energy.
Energy and transport projects and programs account for about 95% of the total cost of PIDA, estimated at about $360 billion. The critical need for transformative investments in these sectors is aimed at supporting African trade, promoting growth, and creating jobs by 2040. The African Union and the European Union are strengthening their digital cooperation for sustainable development in Africa. This joint commitment was made during the first Africa-Europe Digital for Development Hub multi-stakeholder forum held on March 18, 2022 under the theme Digital Transformation for Sustainable Development in Africa. More in this report.
With the ambition to promote exchanges in collaboration with the private sector, civil society, and digital experts, the African Union and the European Union organized on March 18, 2022, the first multi-stakeholder forum Digital for Development of the Africa-Europe Hub. This commitment aims to help both continents to scale up investment in digital skills in order to exploit the potential of digital innovation for the creation of decent jobs for young people in a continent where 70% of the population is under 30 years.
Since I came to this place, I have been more confident because my professional confidence has improved, my skill levels have improved. And then I feel empowered when people ask me that, how do you want to do this? Or how do I get experience to start working abroad? Or would you be my accountability body and things like that? So these things, initiatives like this that encourages women to further career in data science, it really, really helped me. And then I think that I'm in a position to even help and
In the process of digital transition, only 33% of Africans use the internet compared to a global average of 63%, an alert that led to the commissions of the African and European Union to place the Digital for Development Forum under the theme Digital Transformation for Sustainable Development in Africa.
Notre continent manque malheureusement d'infrastructures numériques, de compétences numériques pour pouvoir vraiment complètement utiliser le potentiel des nouvelles technologies. Nous voulons avoir une transformation numérique qui soit stable et durable.
Discussions during the Digital for Development Africa-Europe Multi-Stakeholder Hub Forum gave participants the opportunity to highlight the need to reduce the digital divide, which has become an absolute priority over the years of cooperation between the African Union and the European Union for a green recovery and a more resilient economy.
In this respect, I would like to recognize and commend the leadership of both African Union and European Union for their strategic visions to include digital transformation as one of the high priorities. It's our hope that the outcome of the deliberations made today on digital connectivity, data, digital entrepreneurship and innovation, as well as digital skills, which are all key elements of the digital transformation strategy for Africa.
This first multi-stakeholder forum comes a month after the 6th African Union-European Union Summit, where leaders announced an Africa-Europe investment of 150 billion euros, an envelope intended, among other things, to accelerate the sustainable digital development of Africa as well as the African Union Strategy for Digital Transformation for Africa 2020-2030.
On to our news in brief for this edition. In a press release, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, expressed regret concerning a train attack along the Abuja-Kaduna Railway in Nigeria on March 29, 2022.
The African Union Commission condemns the attack on the train carrying 970 passengers along the Abuja-Kaduna Railway. In a press statement, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, expressed regret with regard to a train attack along the Abuja-Kaduna Railway in Nigeria on March 29, 2022. He firmly condemned this attack he considered as heinous, which resulted in the strategic death of passenger and others reported missing. The African Union urges the Nigerian authorities to take all necessary measures to ensure that the missing passengers are found and that the perpetrators of this act face the law.
The African Union and the coalition uniting to combat NTDs have signed an agreement to end neglected tropical diseases in African Union member states by 2030.
Communicable neglected tropical disease still affect 1.7 billion people in the world, with the African continent accounting for about 40% of the global burden. Despite the relatively low mortality rate resulting from neglected tropical disease, 3.1 million victims were reported in 2015 by the World Health Organization. These diseases are associated with serious complications, including blindness, disfigurement, social stigma, and other disorders that are irreversible in the long term. These damages cause barriers to education, employment, economic growth, and general development. To address the issue, the African Union and the coalition uniting to combat NTDs signed a memorandum of understanding to end neglected tropical diseases in African Union member states by 2030. The agreement emphasizes the commitment of the African Union to strengthen collaboration between stakeholders to control and eliminate 20 pathologies of the group of neglected tropical diseases, thus achieving the vision defined by Agenda 2063, the Africa we want.
And the African Union Commission has put in place a guide on electoral assistance to member states. Rafael Antolo.
The Department of Political Affairs, Peace and Security of the African Union Commission organized from March 29 to the 31st, 2022 in Dakar, in Senegal, a technical workshop for the review and validation of the project of African Union Guide on Electoral Assistance to Member States. This workshop is in line with the application of Article 18 of the African Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance. The African Union Commission is mandated to provide electoral assistance to member states in order to member states in addition to the deployment of electoral observation missions. The development of the Electoral Assistance Guide will enable the Department of Political Affairs, Peace and Security to provide more predictable, consistent and effective electoral support in its attempt to promote peaceful, democratic and credible elections in Africa.
The African Commission on Human and People's Rights is organizing from Thursday, April 21 to Friday, May 13, 2022, its 71st ordinary session. The session, which will be held in virtual mode, will involve the participation of state parties to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, organs of the African Union, national human rights institutions, and non-governmental organizations. This 71st session, which will focus on the human rights situation in Africa, will be open to the public. The fourth ordinary session of the Specialized Technical Committee on Migration, Refugees and Displaced Persons will be held from May 23 to 24, 2022 in Malabo in the Republic of Equatorial Guinea. This session of the Specialized Technical Committee on Migration will focus on the validation of an important legal instrument that will contribute to the operationalization of the African Humanitarian Agency, the governance of migration inside and outside the continent, and those of several policy documents that will enhance the effective governance of issues concerning migration, refugees, and IDPs in Africa. The Extraordinary Summit of African Heads of State on the Industrialization and Economic Diversification of Africa will be held from November 20 to 25, 2022 in Niamey in Niger. According to the African Union, this summit aims to highlight Africa's renewed determination and commitment to industrialization as one of the pillars for achieving the continent's economic growth and development objectives. Sesuma Minata Samate is a Burkinabe diplomat born on July 14, 1961. She has been the African Union Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development since 2021. Minata Samate is ambassador of Burkina Faso to Ethiopia and permanent representative to the African Union and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. More about Minata Samate in this report. She believes in Africa's ability to build her own sustainable development. Sesuma Minata Samate is a Burkinabe diplomat born on July 14, 1961. Since October 15, 2021, she has worked for the African Union as Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development.
La pandémie du coronavirus est venue nous rappeler que l'Afrique peut compter sur elle-même. J'ai été tellement impressionné par les projets de la jeunesse en termes de masques, en termes de matériel pour laver les mains. Et immédiatement, la jeunesse s'y est mise et on a pu, nous aussi à notre niveau, avoir des masques, coudre des masques, ça a créé des opportunités d'emploi. Nous sommes capables de le faire et nous devons le faire. Nous n'avons pas le choix si nous ne voulons pas continuer à être les derniers, à être à la traîne.
Both permanent representative to the African Union and United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, Sesuma Minata Samate was Commissioner for Political Affairs of the African Union Commission. She began her career as a high-level official in 1994 as Minister of Foreign Affairs of her country, Burkina Faso, and in 2007, she was appointed Vice President in charge of regional cooperation. According to Ambassador Samate, Africa's development depends on good health and nutrition for all.
C'est ensemble qu'on pourra relever les défis du continent africain pour avoir cette Afrique que nous voulons, une Afrique qui soit prospère, une Afrique qui compte sur la scène internationale, une Afrique avec des populations bien nourries, avec une Afrique avec des populations en bonne santé qui contribuent aussi. Et il y a beaucoup à faire et nous ne pouvons pas le faire sans votre accompagnement.
A graduate of the International Institute of Public Administration in Paris and of the University of Paris I, of the University Joseph Kizebo of Ouagadougou, of the National School of Administration and Magistracy of Ouagadougou, Sesumaminata Samate is a trained jurist and a career diplomat. She featured on a list of the 100 most influential African women in 2019. Thank you for watching the African Union Journal. Stay tuned for more programs on Africa 24.